Hello, my friends. So I thought we would check back in with the Amberlynn subreddit because why not? You know, it's just fun to see what goes on over there. Some of the funniest things I've ever seen happen on Reddit. And a lot of times there's really good information and some stuff that's going on that you may not know about. So we're just gonna see what's going on. If you'd like to like and subscribe, that would literally be hectic. I'm not gonna lie. So I quit watching her members only live streams. I just couldn't do it anymore, man. It was just not good for my mental health, if you know what I mean. I just couldn't listen to her bullshit for so long. But apparently it's been a little bit crazy. So first of all, I love this. So not too long ago, Amber was asked if she believed in Helen Keller, and she said no.
Do you believe in Helen Keller? No.
Yeah, you heard that right. Amber doesn't believe in Helen Keller. She's not the Tooth Fairy.
Of course she doesn't. So Helen Keller showed up to the live stream, you know, and gave her a little bit of, I don't know, I think this is positive affirmation, or it's, girl, you a lie. You know you got cellulitis from dirty sheets. There was no flood, girl, bye. Fist bump. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. So in Amber's Members Only Live recently, she talked about Mr. Snowflake, and I'm not gonna go into the details of that. But in the subreddit, they're talking about how she claims to know what she knew about Mr. Snowflake. Of course, she claims a friend told her. But I did find a comment that was responding to the Mr. Snowflake stuff that I thought was interesting, so I'm gonna talk about that. So this comment I read makes a lot of sense. It says, I wouldn't be surprised if she lurks in reaction channel snark spaces on Reddit or otherwise undercover, which, you know, there are snark pages on Reddit for basically everybody, you know, where people are just finding out things about anybody and everybody and snarking on them, which we know Amberlynn makes sock accounts. We know that. She can get all the juicy details about reaction channels from the inside and then claim a friend told her or somebody DM'd her. She's effing psychotic and too obsessed with all things girl world, including herself. So, you know, I said this in my last video, I think, where somebody had told me I was bullying her. My response is, I'm talking about her, not to her. If she sees my video, that's her own damn fault. If she sees people talking about her, that is her own fault. She's going looking for it. If that's not helping her mental health, then she should stop doing it. So recently-ish, she was talking shit about Beck and got her tea from the Beck Snark subpage. So yeah, I mean, we would all be really naive to think that she's not on sock accounts on snark pages. She lives there. You know, she loves it because it is validating her feelings that she doesn't like reaction channels, right? She's out here, reaction channels are so mean and they're bullies and blah, blah, blah. So then she goes to these snark pages and is like, oh, see, this is what I need. I need people to talk bad about the people that I don't like, you know? Which, here's the thing. I understand that. I understand if you're constantly being dunked on, it would feel good to see the people that are dunking on you get dunked on. So, I mean, it makes sense, but, and if she would just be honest about it, I don't think anybody would care or be surprised. If she would be like, man, I'm on these reaction channel snark pages and they are funny, I found these great memes or whatever, people would not be surprised. You know, they'd probably still dunk on her, but they do that anyway. So it's like, what's the point in trying to pretend like she's not out here getting her fix on the snark pages? Okay, so this, I mentioned this in my last video too, where on Instagram, she said, it says, you're so sensitive. Yes, actually, I am. I have a mental illness that has literally been compared to having third-degree burns and consumes the lives of 1 in 10 people who have it. I'm overwhelmed with intense emotions all the time. Of course I'm sensitive. My pain is constant. So let's see where that came from. Marsha Linehan is one of the sort of original authorities on borderline personality disorder, and she created DBT, you know, the therapy that Amber keeps talking about. And she is quoted as saying, people with BPD are like people with third-degree burns over 90% of their bodies, lacking emotional skin. They feel agony at the slightest touch or movement. Which basically what that means is like that saying they wear their heart on their sleeve. That's kind of what's happening here. Like if there's some sort of emotional trigger or something happens that elicits an emotional response, to them, it's actually painful because it's so difficult to regulate and it just becomes all consuming. And they actually feel pain when their emotions start flaring up. So, you know, Amberlynn read that and was like, oh yeah, hell yeah. Yep, I got that. That's what I have, you guys. I need all the sympathy. So I'm gonna tell people this is what I'm feeling. So I was talking in the last video about how weird it is she's obsessed that she needs us to know that her sheets are clean. So this person says, I think I figured out why she's suddenly trying to prove that she totally cleans her sheets, you guys. And it says, while dirty sheets themselves don't directly cause cellulitis, they can contribute to a higher risk of infection by providing a breeding ground for bacteria and other microorganisms that can enter a wound. So I think what happens is she knows what people are gonna say when she brings up a topic. So if she says, I have cellulitis, she knows that there's a possibility people are gonna say, oh, your sheets are dirty or whatever. And so she kind of heads that off at the pass. She gets ahead of it and brings it up beforehand so that when people say, hey, you can get it from dirty sheets, she can say, no, see, I told you that I have clean sheets. I've been talking about that lately, if you didn't know. But the problem is she does it so much that, and I say this a lot, but it's that thou doth protest too much. You know, like it's more suspicious because you keep talking about it. So this is about her gallbladder, okay? I'm genuinely curious why she doesn't get her gallbladder removed if it seems to be this giant thing that's blocking her from moving forward in so many aspects. The person says, I do understand that like at her size, it's probably a little dangerous to get it removed unless there's a big issue. And so basically just saying, I think this gallbladder thing is just an excuse for her not following diets. Because if you'll remember, she was told that a keto diet is what you should do for lymphedema, and she was like, well, my doctor says I can't do keto because keto is high fat, low carb, blah, 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 and I can't do high fat because of my gallbladder. Yet then she just continues to eat all the fat she wants. So it's nonsense, but it's an excuse for her not to do keto. It's so that she can pretend like she's unique and special and can't follow the diet that would actually help her lymphedema if she has it. But here's the funny thing about that, okay? My mom actually watched my interview with a therapist, and we got to talking about Amberlynn because she didn't know who Amberlynn was. I just said, I did this interview if you want to check it out or whatever. Well, now she's like, this is really interesting. Who is this girl? I said, so here's the thing. She has this lymphedema, and I told her that story. And the very first thing she said when I mentioned her gallbladder was, well, if it's that big a deal, why didn't she just have her gallbladder removed? And I was like, I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. Because that could solve seemingly all of her problems. But we all know that it's not really about the gallbladder. It's not really even her gallbladder, it's her excuse bladder, is what it is. It's just a way for her to completely deny responsibility for her diet or for really anything, because she can blame everything on her gallbladder. Oh, and don't forget her pancreas. That's also a problem. She doesn't really say why, I don't think. I haven't heard her actually explain what's wrong with her pancreas, but there's something wrong with her pancreas that is keeping her from doing keto. Yeah, okay. It says, so she got that Fitbit from Amazon. Where is the Fitbit? That's a great question. She was so excited to get that Fitbit, y'all.
But I really wanted that damn Fitbit because I'm gonna start tracking my steps. I'm super excited for that. As you guys know, in my last Amazon haul, I said I was supposed to get a Fitbit, but I couldn't find it. I found it, but it was opened. The package looked hectic. This guy went through a lot to get to me, but I got the Inspire 3 Fitbit.
But it has never been seen. Since she showed the box, it has never been seen. All right, so this, I have called this out a couple times, but the whole calorie deficiency, that is not right. It's deficit. This person, and that really gets on this person's nerve. It's deficit, deficit, deficit. It's not a deficiency. So the definition of deficiency is a lack or shortage, meaning you don't have enough of something. Whereas a deficit is the amount by which something, especially a sum of money or calories, is too small. That's the difference, is there's a deficit where you're comparing two numbers, but a deficiency is just that you just don't have enough of something. Okay, so I have not seen this. Now, I've seen what Amber says in this, but I haven't seen the response. So basically what she's doing in this clip is saying that she went for a mammogram and the mammogram tech told her she's beautiful. So listen to this.
It's awkward. I'm definitely not hitting on you, but you are really beautiful. It like made my day because she was just like, you have such a pretty face. And I don't know, things like that like mean a lot to me when I'm feeling kind of shitty about myself. I was having anxiety because I was like, oh my God, there's something wrong with my breast. My boobs are all up in her face. Like it was just a whole thing.
That mammogram tech that you said called you beautiful with your boobs up in her face, that didn't happen. And do you know that you almost got her fired for saying that? And I remember very well that night, she said to me that some girl had come in, some really fat, obese, disgusting girl had come in that day, and I assumed that was you, and she sure as hell didn't call you beautiful. You almost got her fired with your pathetic lie about calling her beautiful. And if you think I'm lying, I'll give you her name, Amberlynn, so you know it's real. She put in her 2-week notice, so that's why I'm mentioning it now, so you can't get her fired now. But
so there's no way to know 100% if that person is telling the truth, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if that were true, because I mean, she doesn't give a shit about anybody else or give a single thought to what could happen to anybody else, especially being so public and being on a public platform and saying things about people. Like, what a jackass. All right, so this is, I love this. This is from December 1st, 2021. The video is Fearing for My Life. Now remember, her video recently got taken down because she was talking about fearing for her life and then asking for money for life-saving medication. And by the way, that life-saving medication was GLP-1 or Ozempic, because it's really dire now, you guys.
Recently that I started to be fearful of dying, and it's mainly because like I don't want to die young. Like I have created a future that I really, really want for myself, and there's people in my life that I can't imagine never seeing again.
So I think she's misunderstanding what happens when she unalives, you know? They don't get to see her again. But I mean, honestly, I guess it's both, because once you're dead, you're not seeing them either. So you know what? Touche.
I spent the holiday alone, so that was really, really hard for me. Spending it alone kind of hit a whole new like level of pain. So there was 1 or 2 nights where I did eat, being alone for the holidays, and just like that sadness I feel. I wanted all the food. I wanted literally all the food. So I've been a wee bit MIA. You know, it all started with me spending Thanksgiving alone, and then you guys, I got sick. I actually had cellulitis. In the last couple of months, I've gotten cellulitis twice, so that's very weird.
We're doing really good. I love taking an antibiotic.
I love taking an antibiotic. That doesn't sound like what happened recently. So this is what she had to say about her antibiotic a couple of days ago when she was talking about her cellulitis.
And by the way, I do have cellulitis. I am feeling kind of down today. I think the antibiotic is making me not feel the greatest.
So she's blaming the antibiotic for not feeling well and not her cellulitis, but whatever. And I know that antibiotics can have side effects, but she is so quick to blame the medication instead of the illness that's causing her to take the medication. Because of course, medicine bad. We know she knows how everything works, so she would know. So I thought this was funny. I see people always posting, what would Amber be like if she did lose weight? The answer is this. Exactly this. All right, so you got this face, and then you got this girl from, this is the girl from Teen Mom. Her name is Amber. And it's so funny because my wife loves Teen Mom. She's into the reality shows and crap. She loves The Bachelor, and you know, I think she would like Girl World if she gave it a shot, but she loves this kind of crap. In fact, it's so funny because my wife will be watching Teen Mom. She's been kind of catching back up because I guess they're back in the news or something. I don't know. But I will walk through the room or whatever. And I'll admit that I'll walk through and I'll end up standing there just like watching it for a little bit, just being like, man, that's crazy. And it's usually because of her. Because when I see her on the screen, I'm like, man, she reminds me so much of Amberlynn. It's wild. She is a narcissist. And she never thinks she has done anything wrong. It's just pretty wild. The mop legs thing, you know, we have always known, we've seen every time she's ever shown her legs that her pants are always dragging the floor. And so you know they're picking up all kinds of just bacteria and dirt and water and all kinds of stuff. So this person says, those of us who watch Mr. Snowflake know the lore of the nickname mop legs. He started calling her that when she was filming in a 7-Eleven bathroom, and you can see her pants under her feet. So as she's waddling, the pant legs are like scuffling along with her and picking up whatever's on a 7-Eleven bathroom floor. She's always walked on her pants because it's the only thing that covered her ankle balls. I hadn't read that part. Her ankle balls. I like that. I saw on Salty Crab's recap of the live stream that Amber is adamant that Snowflake is referring to her ankle flesh scrubbing the floor. And she even chewed out a person for pointing out that she's wrong. It shows how thick in the head she really is, and if she's convinced of something, she won't change her mind. Imagine living life with that much ignorance. Shake my head. I'm still calling her mop legs. And then this person says, Amber does that on purpose. She has no qualms about twisting something she doesn't like into something offensive that was never said and attacking that instead. That is what we call a straw man. And that is exactly what's happening with that. So Mr. Snowflake made a reference to a specific thing that happened, i.e. the pants dragging the floor, but that doesn't allow her to be a victim, and gain sympathy. So then she creates this straw man that is, he was making fun of my ankle balls and attacks that instead. That's exactly what a straw man is. All right, so yeah, I pointed this out in the video where this meal came from. This was like either the same video or the video right after she had said that she can't do keto because of her gallbladder because she can't eat fat. And then she eats this shit. It's just like, she doesn't even listen to herself, or she doesn't care. I mean, the cognitive dissonance and the hypocrisy is just staggering. And it's not like she said one and then like a year later was eating this stuff. It was like that day or the next day. So this one was interesting. Apathetic Facts posted this, and it's from Am I the Asshole, which, so since I started looking at the Amberlynn subreddit, I've discovered other subreddits, and Am I the Asshole is maybe the best. Except I will say, most of those stories have to be fake. I just don't believe that all of them are true, but they're still fun. So, but this one's interesting though. It says, am I the asshole for wanting to move on from my past with my famous ex, famous, Amberlynn Reed, but still getting dragged into drama? Now, so it seems like they're kind of hinting that this is Jade. And this could be anybody. They can pretend to be Jade and there's no way for us to know, but let's just read it anyway and see. Hi Reddit, posting from a throwaway because I don't want this tied to my main. So I am female, dated Amberlynn Reed a few years ago. If you know who she is, well, remember, she's famous. You probably already know that her audience can be intense. And I was gonna say it's not really her audience. It's more like the hater nation, but I guess that is her audience, The vast majority of her audience are haters. So anyway, they can be intense. When we were together, our relationship was under a microscope. Every little fight, every smile, every time I breathed wrong, someone had something to say about it online. It was exhausting. Now hold on, that wouldn't be Jade because Jade wasn't on camera. There were no smiles. And this is, I dated her a few years ago. Who would this be? The only person that dated her a few years ago would be Jade. Oh, let's move on a little bit. When we broke up, it wasn't exactly amicable, but I genuinely tried to move on quietly. I didn't want to air dirty laundry. I didn't make call-out videos or go on rants. I just wanted a fresh start. I moved, I changed jobs, I started therapy. But even now, years later, I get random DMs and comments from people demanding I spill tea or accusing me of being the villain in our breakup. Some fans of hers twist things around, and sometimes she mentions me vaguely in videos, which stirs everything back up. Recently, I posted a picture with my new girlfriend, and someone somehow connected it back to Amberlynn and started a whole thread dragging me. So, I just don't know who this could be. The only person that would make sense would be Jade, because from what I understand, and I don't really keep up with what Crystal is doing, but I don't know if she's on social media, because from what I understand, she's pretty private. Destiny obviously is out here talking about Amberlynn, so I don't think that's it. It has to be Jade, but that doesn't make sense either, because it says every little fight, every smile, every time I breathed wrong, someone had something to say about it. But like, they wouldn't have seen her smiles. Jade never showed her face on camera. I mean, maybe because every once in a while they would talk to each other. You know, Jade would be off camera and they'd talk. But yeah, I think this is a troll. So my final answer is, I think it's a troll. I think it's somebody that just wanted some upvotes and stuff. Of course, it's weird that they would put it on a throwaway account. So who knows? I don't guess we'll ever know for sure, but it just doesn't add up. This is a good point. This person says, I can pay the entire chat's utility bill. And this is from one of her live streams. I'm almost positive it was during one of her members only lives. I think it was like hot or something in her apartment. And somebody said, can you not afford the air conditioning? And she was being real snarky. And she was like, yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but oh, yeah. And then she said, I could afford to pay the whole chat's air conditioning bill. So yeah. And then she comes on and says she needs money to fund her Ozempic or her GLP-1. Like, okay. So that was a trek into the Amberlynn subreddit once again. And always remember, as the mods remind all of the Amber subredditors, don't touch the poo. That means don't go out of your way to talk to Amber or try to get her attention or whatever. So there are some great takes, there are some terrible takes, but there's a lot of just interesting stuff happening on Reddit most of the time. So we'll do this every once in a while, just check in with the subreddit and see how things are going over there. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. I appreciate you guys so much. Take care.